pushing the field. So stop motion, though not a necessity to create cinematic illusions anymore, especially with the advent of computer imagery, it's still alive and strong. There are two main forces, in my opinion, that continue to push the industry forward: Tim Burton and Laika Studios. One of Tim Burton's first films is a short called Vincent. And Vincent is a 6-minute stop-motion animation about a young boy who wants to be Vincent Price. Only one of few true horror films by Disney. It doesn't even have an official release, but can be found in the special features. By the way, if you're not sure who Vincent Price is, Vincent Price was a very famous horror actor, especially in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He was also the voice at the end of Michael Jackson's Thriller. He was also the father of Edward Scissorhands. So Tim Burton really liked Vincent Price quite a bit. Burton was hired as a concept artist and an animator at Disney, but soon realized that Disney realized his unique style is somewhat un-Disney, and none of his concept work actually made it into any final movie. But it does kind of explain a little bit why the Black Cauldron was hidden away for a full decade. If anyone is a fan of Disney films, you know that the Black Cauldron was one of the low water points of quality and story coming out of Disney, especially in the mid-'80s. This movie came out around 85, and Disney Animation was in a real bad spot. They were in the middle of a hostile takeover by another corporation. The animators were relegated to basically a basement without any windows and stuffy air, and it was just kind of a miserable place to be at the time. And that kind of experience was reflected in their movie, The Black Cauldron. That came out. It was a dark film. It was a scary film, especially for little children. And it just really wasn't the kind of thing that I think that Walt probably would have greenlit or kind of steered in a direction that Walt wanted his movies to go. And it was at this time that Tim Burton was there. Probably one of the reasons why The Black Cauldron wasn't a big success. Merchandising does play a huge role in these Disney films. I don't know if anybody wants a plush toy of a cauldron-born zombie. Probably not. But instead of letting Tim Burton go, they gave him $60,000 and said, hey, you know what? Go make a movie and see what you can do. And he came up with the 5-minute Vincent. So that's a pretty good move by Disney, because I think they recognized the talent there. And it was, of course, narrated by Vincent Price, and it had a very limited release, and both critics and Disney absolutely loved it, but they ultimately shelved it since it wasn't exactly their thing, and they really had no idea what to do with it at all. So Tim Burton's first stop-motion film kind of lost to time. Maybe you could find it on different special features, but you don't have to go look for it, because I'm going to show it to you right now. Take a look at the stop-motion involved. Take a look at Tim Burton's first stop-motion film, Vincent.
Vincent Malloy is 7 years old. He's always polite and does what he's told. For a boy his age, he's considerate and nice. But he wants to be just like Vincent Price. He doesn't mind living with his sister, dog, and cats, though he'd rather share a home with spiders and bats. There he could reflect on the horrors he's invented and wander dark hallways alone and tormented. Vincent is nice when his aunt comes to see him, but imagines dipping her in wax for his wax museum. He likes to experiment on his dog, Abercrombie, in the hopes of creating a horrible zombie. So he and his horrible zombie dog could go searching for victims in the London fog. His thoughts, though, aren't only of ghoulish crime. He likes to paint and read to pass some of the time. While other kids read books like Go, Jane, Go, Vincent's favorite author is Edgar Allan Poe. One night, while reading a gruesome tale, he read a passage that made him turn pale. Such horrible news he could not survive, for his beautiful wife had been buried alive. He dug out her grave to make sure she was dead, unaware that her grave was his mother's flower bed. His mother sent Vincent off to his room. He knew he'd been banished to the Tower of Doom, where he was sentenced to spend the rest of his life alone with the portrait of his beautiful wife. While alone and insane, encased in his tomb, Vincent's mother burst suddenly into the room. She said, "If you want to, you can go out and play. It's sunny outside and a beautiful day." Vincent tried to talk, but he just couldn't speak. The years of isolation had made him quite weak. So he took out some paper and scrawled with a pen, "I am possessed by this house and can never leave it again." His mother said, "You're not possessed and you're not almost dead. These games that you play are all in your head. You're not Vincent Price, you're Vincent Malloy. You're not tormented or insane, you're just a young boy. You're 7 years old and you are my son. I want you to get outside and have some real fun." Her anger now spent, she walked out through the hall. And while Vincent backed slowly against the wall, the room started to sway, to shiver and creak. His horrid insanity had reached its peak. He saw Abercrombie, his zombie slave, and heard his wife call from beyond the grave. She spoke from her coffin and made ghoulish demands, while through cracking walls reached skeleton hands. Every horror in his life that had crept through his dreams swept his mad laughter to terrified screams. To escape the madness, he reached for the door, but fell limp and lifeless down on the floor. His voice was soft and very slow as he quoted The Raven from Edgar Allan Poe. "And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore."